for burning questions after WWE Night of Champions 2025. Hello everyone, welcome my channel, please subscribe. The WWE Night of Champions event in Saudi Arabia proved to be an exciting spectacle. It was undoubtedly one of the best pull shows of WWE. This year, the night saw Cody Rhodes and Jade Cargill win the King and Queen of the tournament, respectively, and the two will now have a title shot at SummerSlam. Similarly, Sami Zayn got the better of Karrion Kross, while Solo Sikoa also won his first United States Championship by beating Jacob Fatu, surprisingly. The show also featured the debut of Hikuleo in Bloodline 2.0, Tonga Loa, another Bloodline member who had been out since last year's Survivor Series, War Games, also returned to cost Jacob Fatu his title. The main event of the show saw John Cena retaining his WWE Undisputed Championship against CM Punk. The match was intense, especially as Seth Rollins appeared with Paul Heyman and his allies, attempting a cash-in on Cena's title. However, Rollins was unable to do so after Cena took out the referee before the cash-in could start. Overall, Night of Champions was a decent event, but it left some questions for the fans. This article will therefore list for burning questions after WWE Night of Champions. 4. Why didn't Randy Orton turn heel? Randy Orton lost yet another final of the King of the Ring tournament at Night of Champions. Last year, he was defeated by Gunther, and this year, the loss came from his former protege, Cody Rhodes. However, fans were surprised that the Viper didn't turn heel during the bout. There was a moment when the Apex Predator was going for his iconic heel move, the punt kick, which he hasn't used recently. However, he didn't do so. At last, he succumbed to a crossroads from Randy Orton. The fans, however, desired much more from his Cody Rhodes-Randy Orton rivalry, rather than simply one match with both going in as faces. Orton and Cody share a deep past, and they should have another match, with Orton possibly being a heel. Had the Viper turned on Rhodes after the victory, that would have set in motion a sensational storyline between the two, which the fans have been wanting to see for a long time. The bout could have gone up till SummerSlam, but Orton didn't do anything and simply embraced Cody after the loss. 3. Why didn't both women's champions from Raw and SmackDown have a match at Knock? Since it was the Night of Champions, it was surprising to see that neither of the women's champions from both brands had a match. The Women's World Champion Io Sky hasn't defended her title since WrestleMania 41, when she defended her gold against Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. She doesn't even have a challenger to her title at the moment on the Red brand. While Liv Morgan is out due to injury, Rhea Ripley is locked in a feud with Raquel Rodriguez, and Bianca Belair is nowhere to be seen. Similarly, WWE Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton also didn't defend her gold at Night of Champions. Instead, her title defense shot came on SmackDown a day before the poll, where she squared off against her former friend Nia Jax in a last woman standing match. The Buff Barbie won the contest, even after a failed cash-in attempt by Naomi on her title. However, the booking was surprising, as this match could have taken place at Night of Champions, as Tiffany is the women's champion and the match would have been received well by the fans. 2. What happened to Jimmy Uso? The fans also wondered what happened to Jimmy Uso and why he didn't appear for Jacob Fatu at Night of Champions. The Samoan Werewolf was cornered by JC Mateo, a returning Tonga Loa, and a debuting Hikuleo and Solo Sikoa. It was 4-1, and the fans were expecting to see Jimmy Uso come out for Fatu. The previous night on SmackDown, Fatu had come out to save Jimmy from Solo and JC Mateo after the duo tried to assault the OG Bloodline member. However, Jimmy Uso not coming out to help Jacob Fatu, despite not being injured, was surprising for a lot of fans. 1. Why didn't Roman Reigns show up at Night of Champions? A day before Night of Champions, it was reported that Roman Reigns could return to WWE soon, and preparations for this have begun. It was expected that the big dog would return at Night of Champions during Cena and CM Punk's match. If Seth Rollins tried to attempt a cash-in, while the Visionary did try an attempt to steal the gold from Cena and had his men do the needful, Roman Reigns was nowhere to be seen. It has been nearly 2 months since the OTC showed up in WWE. He was taken out by Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker on Raw after WrestleMania 41. Since then, he hasn't shown up in WWE to settle his scores with his former ally, Seth Rollins. It would have been a banger had Reigns returned last night in Riyadh and taken out Seth Rollins and his men. That would have also brought Punk and Reigns together, and they could have challenged Rollins and company for a match at SummerSlam. It now remains to be seen when Roman Reigns will finally return to WWE. 3 reasons why Seth Rollins failed to cash in his WWE Money in the Bank contract. At Night of Champions, Seth Rollins tried his best to leave Night of Champions as the undisputed WWE Champion, but his plans did not materialize. The Visionary arrived during the main event match with his crew, however. Cena retained his gold after taking out Rollins and Bronson Reed. Rollins' failed cash-in attempt surprised many fans as it seemed like a perfect moment for him to seize the opportunity and become champion. With Roman Reigns nowhere to be seen in Riyadh, the path was clear for the Visionary to become world champion. In this article, we will discuss 3 reasons why Seth Rollins failed to cash in his MITB contract at WWE Night of Champions 2025. One of the biggest reasons why Rollins failed in his cash-in attempt was John Cena. When his heel group destroyed CM Punk, the Visionary called Charles Robinson to the ring to officiate the bout. The Architect's plans were spoiled by the franchise player who attacked Robinson at ringside before he could enter the ring. If Cena hadn't stopped the referee, Rollins might have successfully cashed in his contract at Night of Champions 20,252. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker were taken out. Seth Rollins had a huge numbers advantage when he showed up to cash in his contract. However, the Architect fell short after Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker were taken out. This happened when Penta and Sami Zayn interrupted the main event match. If the dog of WWE and the Ausilla had been there with Rollins, it wouldn't have been easy for John Cena to steal the victory. Reed and Breaker's inability to deal with the babyfaces, and Cena had a role in Rollins' failed cash-in attempt. 1. Seth Rollins' MITB cash-in might take place at WWE SummerSlam. Seth Rollins attempted to cash in his MITB contract at Night of Champions, but it seems that WWE never planned to go ahead with it. It was probably done to make the main event match even more compelling. SummerSlam 2025 is the next premium live event of the Stanford-based promotion. The Triple H-led creative team may have plans to book Rollins' MITB cash-in at the biggest party of the summer. What happened at Night of Champions was only a glimpse, and the real angle will likely unfold at SummerSlam this year. This could be why the Architect had a failed Money in the Bank cash-in attempt at the recently concluded